Real Housewives of Potomac. This is season 10, episode 10. Blunt Truths. So Giselle is starting off getting a new car. She has Wendy come car shopping with her. And while Wendy's there, Wendy like, well, listen, I'm gonna have to be a copycat for a second because I think I'm gonna get the same car too. Okay. So all right, speaking of copycat, Stacy copying everything Wendy doing at this point. Um, you know, Talking about it brings Giselle to just this realization that I think she just pretty much is fed up with the whole beef with her and Stacy. She a liar, she not a liar. She's pretty much over at this point. She'll take her as is and, believe her, not believe her, whatever. But no more energy wasted on Stacy at this point, I guess for now. They talk about Karen, how, they're keeping in touch a little bit, through Cookie. They doing a little test drive of the car. And they talk about Monique, for Giselle, it was actually kind of a little, I wouldn't say refreshing, but it was like, like a home feeling almost. Cause, like, then, the gang's almost together, be her being in one of the, we'll say, originals. She didn't start off on the first season, but she had a good long standing, her and Candace. And she was pretty much a heavy part of the show, so um those feelings was just kind of coming back a little bit, like, okay. Yeah. But she and Monique have to eventually sit down with each other to, air out these grievances, especially if Monique gonna be around, according to Giselle, or she can keep her, over there. Okay. Stacy and AJ is meeting up, and they're talking about the ladies and Shio because they're gonna have a Shio cannabis line launch. She's gonna invite all the ladies, this and this and that. But just reflecting on that party, how people was coming at her, especially Tia being so prim and so proper. Like, dang, I can't believe she tried me, AJ. AJ, like, girl, you need to come back at her. You from Detroit. Don't let that old British, what he say, Grey Poupon come at you. Throw a coney dog at her. uh, Anywho, I guess there'll be a little Detroit humor joke there, right? But she is going to be the first black woman to own a cannabis line in Virginia. So it is a pretty big deal. But the other ladies, man, they're just not really, one, responding to the invite. And two, pretty much every time she mentions it, they just, don't really give her response to it, not even excited for her, don't want to, no questions asked, nothing, like, so AJ just letting her know, like, listen, you better let them have it. Don't be letting them run over you. That's not like you. And she like, I mean, I know, I'm trying to keep it cute, but I will. I will when I have to. Tia is at her job. I can't even remember what she actually does. I know it was something with fashion or styling or something. I don't know. But either way, she called Stacy to just tell her how she did feel a little bit bad at the way she kind of yelled at her and everything at the party. So it would be wise for them to actually, talk to each other to clear the air on their behalf. And of course, Stacy was cool with it and said, okay, I can meet you and we can discuss. So Ashley and Josh is on a date. It looked like they was at Dave and Buster's or some kind of arcade place like that, right? And she pretty much breaks up with them. We already know her who she was married to, right? So that's most likely her. It's what you're used to. It's more your speed, so to speak. And Josh is just not on that level just yet, especially with him being still young, no kids, ain't been married, all that stuff. She already got the kids, divorce, all that stuff. Like, boy, you need to, like live a little bit and grow a couple gray hairs, and then maybe we can do some things. Because at this point, I got to move on. All right, so the big moment here with Monique and Giselle, they actually got to sit down and talk with each other one on one. And the ending results was actually good, okay? Because we can agree that we can be around each other and we can be friendly. And if we got to go there, we're going to put our hands in our pockets and use our words. And then, we can apologize the next day. How we normally do, how we like to live, like, go back to normal like we used to do before, we took our hands out our pockets. But, Giselle was a little bit nervous because she didn't know exactly how this conversation was going to go. But Monique is in a whole new, better space, whole new mindset. She's over it. She's not going to be fighting no more. And, like for me, I mean, past trauma and all this stuff that people go through, and you grow up and then you lash out on people and all this and that. So you put the blame somewhere in that past trauma box, you know what I'm saying? So for me, I'm like, girl, okay, fine. If that's how you want to spend this accountability story that you want to, put out there. Cause I'm cool with just saying, listen, the girl said one too many words. I was mad at you, but she was yelling at me and I was fed up, and that's why I grabbed her. Boom, bada bing, bada bang. I'm sorry it happened, but it did. So I want to, well, she ain't here, so we ain't gonna apologize to her nothing right now. But towards Giselle, like, yeah, that anger should have been towards you, because it was you who was making me mad. But Monique pretty much thought like how we think Giselle is. She just a hater, okay? She was hating from the moment you dropped the 4 homes on her. And the whole thing. And for Monique, it was mostly like, Giselle, you was all up in the relationship business. You was all up in people's lives. You ain't had your own. And, i.e. example, the whole trainer and the baby ain't Chris's, and you was calling him big boy and all this stuff. Remember all that? Yeah. Crossing lines, crossing boundaries. That's where it went left. So of course Giselle was like, okay, cool. I get all, understand all of that. For her, like I said, I think for everything is a joke to Giselle at this point, with the show. That's why she started all the mess, because it's all a joke to her. She don't expect nobody to really get mad at her, like really deeply mad. So that's why she, trying to joke with Angel, but Angel actually taking it to heart, because they're not getting the joke, but you, Giselle, right? So Monique was really, really mad at you, and you just was like, well, dang, now that I know that she really mad, like, this is crazy. Like, she thought that Monique wanted the fight to happen on purpose, which I don't think she wanted it to happen on purpose. I don't think that it was reactionary. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't planned, or it was provoked and reactionary. That's how I seen it. I don't know how y'all saw it, but that's how I seen it. And she was just wondering basically who was all in her ear doing this and all that. Was it Chris? Who, this and all that? When I'm just thinking to myself, like, Giselle, it was you. And I'm not really understanding why Monique didn't break that down to her. Really, it was you and it was Robin, because Robin ain't here, but it was a combination of the three. Candace, Monique, and Robin. It was a combination, but it was Candace who was running the mouth. So that's how the thing sprouted out of control. I don't know. I guess maybe they just didn't want to talk about said incident. So maybe that's why they skipped over the whole thing. But in the end, they just decided that, yeah, well, we can be cool with each other. And we can talk it out if we have a dispute. We use our words and put our hands in our pockets. I don't know why Angel, Greg, and Kay's mom went to the jewelry store to try to go find Kay an engagement ring. Because by the end of it, he didn't necessarily buy anything. And the mama is still questioning him as to, like, right, where is this relationship going? Because it doesn't make any sense. Especially, right, you're not necessarily buying the ring. You want to run it by her real quick first and all this. I don't know. It was kind of pointless, but if she does become so-called engaged at some point at the reunion, I think we probably could see it coming, or probably not. For me, I'm kind of saying not. Ashley and her sister, I forget her sister name. I forgot, was it Jessica? Something like that, Jessica. She's grown now, going off to college, and they just doing some shopping. Ashley helping her out with some things, and they just talking about her dad and their mom because Ashley wants their mom to break up with her dad, but it's her dad, so it's a lot of things that goes into it, and him being alcoholic, I guess, is that what they're calling it? uh yeah, it's just making things a little bit harder for, I think, everybody to let go of the situation. I think that's how this is going, but something that they will have to figure out in their family life, mostly the mama, because they're the kids. It's the mama that got to do something with her man. So the Nutty Professor, Happy Eddie, has added another strand to the line, and he's calling it the Nutty Professor after Wendy. Okay, funny name, ha 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 ha. While they are at some type of pop-up shop down there at a dispensary, they which, see, I was gonna say, come to Michigan, Eddie, come to Michigan. Look, I ain't even gonna say it this time, because who gonna take over the company if y'all go to jail? And if it's a federal offense, ain't you not allowed to own a cannabis line if you're a felon? I don't know, but listen. But right now on the show, Happy Eddie is doing a pop up. Wendy doesn't show up all the time, which makes sense. But this time she's popping up just because she ain't got nothing else to do. She's not invited to Stacy's event over there. Stacy told her, I would invite you and all, but conflict of interest between companies. I never really heard of such thing. I thought you could go to each other's parties, but as long as you don't pass out your own, it's like pass out your own cards and your own merchandise on my own turf, like something like that. But no more lies, no more negativity, no more evil. We go to Stacy's Shayo launch for her gummies or whatever. I didn't. Well, it's only two flavors. Okay, I think Eddie. I was trying to figure out how many strands did he actually have. Was it just the two, like the Happy Eddie and the Nutty, or was the Happy Eddie something else and then the Nutty Professor or something like that? I don't know. I have to look it up or something. But either way, they kind of did it back and forth, so you could see Wendy over there buying some of her own product slash some of the ladies meeting up at their the other dispensary to hang out with Stacy and her launch. You can see customers coming in to buy, whatever they want to buy. And not everybody showed up. It was only Tia, Jazzy, and Ashley. And of course, her friend AJ was there. And, her and Tia will get a chance to talk at some point, but she wanted to talk to Ashley, first. And, it's mostly just to be like, dang, Ashley, like, why you always be messing with me? Because Ashley is one of the people besides Giselle who keeps pushing this narrative that she's a liar and she don't tell the truth and all this. So for Ashley, it's mostly just saying like, well, you're the one who keeps so-called lying. Whatever you bring to us or bring to me and I see that it's fake, then I'm going to call it out and I'm going to speak on it. And obviously Stacy's trying to tell her like, okay, whatever, because everything that you are trying to prove against me is failing. So that's why you need to basically fall back and leave me alone. So it is what it is. You know how Ashley be anyway. If it's a mess, she's going to pick at it. And if it's, even more mess, she's definitely gonna dig into it. Okay. And that's just her. That's her and Giselle. They piggyback off that same type of energy. Oh yeah, and I forgot because remember this copycat stuff because it's always Stacy copycat, Stacy copycat. The dang dress she got on is the same dress that Ashley done wore like what a couple days ago. So this like the second time that this has happened. Although the first time it was a fault on Vivian's, I guess. This time it just so happened to be some type of coincidence. Okay. And then they look like they walked in with the same wig on, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe one might be a one number off, but it's definitely the same. Oh yeah, and the ownership of the company. I mean, she is, I guess, quote unquote, part owner because it's Juicy would be her investors or side co-owners in said Shayo's business. But we in the show with Stacy and Tia trying to figure out where, they little issue and it don't get resolved because Stacy ended up kicking Tia out. They did start off okay where Tia let Stacy talk to, basically explain all of her side, which she was mostly upset that when she invited her to the dinner and she let Timu meet her first, because she thought she was neutral parties in this. She didn't expect Tia to go back to flip it on her between her and Eddie and Wendy or whatever to make it seem like, oh, uh, I lied about Timu wanting to not come to the dinner or he was traveling, all this, whatever, whatever. Because mind you, it was Timu who was the first one that said that he didn't want to go in the first place. He the one actually declined it. And Stacy just, fine, he that's what he said, that's what he said. But it was the issue, that because Wendy and Eddie had talked to TJ, or should we say Eddie talked to TJ and all that whole debacle about paying him and all this stuff had came to light. Timu kind of felt a little something away about it, right? So that's why they haven't met necessarily yet up with the Septos because he needs to, I guess, figure out what he want to do with that situation. Okay, obviously. So with Tia coming in, it's mostly like you're just kind of jumping in here. You don't know what you're talking about. You don't know what you're doing. You just jumping on the bandwagon with all the other ladies trying to fit in with the group and this and this and that. And Tia like, no, that's not how it went. This is how it went. And as she trying to explain herself, Stacey didn't really let her talk. She kept interrupting her, which of course making Tia mad and upset. And this is how we're not going to resolve this conversation because you're not letting me talk. And I'm trying to explain that what either way, one of the words she had flip-flopped the order of the conversation or order of events that happened when it came to the phone call. Okay. So, and in her mind, it's like, well, I'm listening to all these ladies, tell me that you a liar and you a liar. And I'm trying to give you the benefit of the doubt and say, okay, well, let me get to know you and this and this and that. But now I get to know you and I'm seeing it for myself. Now that's where our wires are getting crossed. So with that, they're not hearing each other. They're not seeing each other. AJ, Jazzy, and Ashley just sitting there staring at him like, what the heck is going on? AJ was trying to be like, no, no, okay, hold on, chill out. They got customers over there, just, because they just be looking, because obviously you don't know what's going on. But we just going to be looking, right? Because that's exactly, I would pull out my phone, because I know who these people is. Okay. So, look, I watched the show. I pulled out my phone, okay? But, Stacy gonna kick Tia out talking about so well you can go only because she told her to shut up, and I'm like, oh goodness gracious, because you don't tell me to shut up, and so she can go. She said fine, been kicked out of worse places, right? And that's where we're gonna leave off. So they didn't get no resolve. Maybe on the next time around, if they can maybe talk on a one-on-one basis without an audience, maybe that'll be a little better. Not in public at, a public event. And they can explain themselves and maybe that'll be a better turnout. But right now, nope. Tia ain't really feeling Stacy like that. She on Giselle, Kay, and Angel side when it comes to things, and a little bit of Ashley, because Ashley just here to be nosy, technically. That's what I'll say. Ashley here to be nosy. I mean, she here for support and all, paying back support, but more likely to be nosy because after this, she gonna go right back and tell Giselle everything that happened. So, we'll see what happens on the next episode once it all unravels. And we get to go to Colorado at some point. I don't think it's gonna be on the next episode, but on maybe the next one after. So that'll be kind of fun. Peace out.